my opening chapter to That's Bold of You is about this thing called the beautiful mess effect, which basically says, like, think about qualities that you like in other people. Most of them boil up to this one word, vulnerability. You like vulnerable people. Vulnerable people are people who aren't afraid to be weird, wild, eccentric, passionate, intense, honest, silly, goofy, right? Those are vulnerable traits, right? Vulnerability doesn't always mean like sensitive. It just means you're willing to be vulnerable and be real and honest. Like, you want weird friends. You want friends who have a good time. Of course, you want honest friends. You want friends who are willing to be a beginner. Great qualities. I'd say across the board, unless you have some weird preference, you would say, yeah, those are the friends that I want in life. But then when it comes to ourselves and being that person, we say, well, other people won't appreciate that. Other people won't appreciate my weirdness, my passion, my intensity, my eccentricities, my weirdness. We have this weird hypocrisy when it comes to traits that we admire versus us becoming and embracing that trait. The beautiful mess effect was the coining of that acknowledgement, and these social scientists a couple years ago kind of set out to prove that in different social settings, that we think everyone will hate us when we do the awkward, vulnerable thing, but we love it in other people. And they proved it. They did all these different studies, social studies, where for instance, they had two groups of people. They had one group of people say, hey, in a couple of minutes, you're going to go sing this song in front of a group of 50 people. And they're like, before you do that, though, how do you think it's going to go? And they asked them, and they're like, this is going to be horrible. They're going to laugh at me. This is going to be terribly embarrassing. They're going to point and laugh and, throw, fruit at me. And they said, okay, pause. And they went to the other group and they said, hey, by the way, in a couple of minutes, a person's going to come up here and sing a song in front of you. How do you think it's going to go? And they all said, well, it doesn't really matter. Like, it would take balls to get up here and do that. Like, it's like good for them. Like, that's amazing. Good for them. So time and time again, they just showed the disconnect between perception and reality. And they did it across other settings too. Like, asking for help was a big one. Admitting a mistake was a big one. Things that were like, well, I can't ask for help. People will think less of me. And they were like, no. Time and time again, they show that people think it's an admirable trait. They want that in partners and friends and colleagues. So that's the biggest thing I've learned, to answer your question, is embrace vulnerability. Don't let the internet, don't let movies, don't let your humanity convince you that those are traits that should be hidden. Those are traits that bring the right people into your life. And if we're hiding them, like you feel lonely, you hide the traits that you think will make people run from you, you become lonelier. It becomes this cycle. We have to, and I know it's not easy because yes, certain people will not be drawn to those, but they're not necessarily not drawn to them because you embrace them. They're just not drawn to your flavor of them, which is fine. But we have to put those things out there. I think it's a bold thing. That's what I wrote about. And I think for me that transcends into life, into business, into relationships. So it's like a very broad but powerful concept.